class. Hey, Sarah, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah. Thank you all so much for joining today's class. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from, and we can go to the overhead camera and I'll show you today's project and all the supplies we're going to be working with. Okay, so we are going to be making these adorable under the sea cupcakes. We have a whale, a seahorse, and a jellyfish. And to make these, we are using a variety of Satin Ice products. I have the Shimmer Fondant and the Classic Fondant in turquoise and pink. And as we work with these products, I will go over them more in depth as we're using them. I have the ready-to-use buttercream. So this is ready to go. All you have to do is just give it a stir, add any colors or flavoring that you want. I have the food color markers that are the neon shades. So this comes in pink, orange, green, purple, and black. I have some cupcakes here. I have the edible glue. And the edible glue is going to help us attach the fondant to itself. This way it stays on very well. I have cornstarch. This is going to help the fondant from sticking to the surface or your hands or anything like that. I also have CMC powder, and I'll explain this more, but this is going to be used with our fondant so that it dries quicker. So that's good. And then I have my silicone mat underneath me for my working surface. Since I don't have direct access to a sink and water, I have wet paper towels and dry paper towels so that I can wipe my hands off if the fondant starts to stick to my hands. I have a paintbrush to apply the edible glue and the silver Satin Ice luster brush. So this is going to give us some really pretty luster details on top of the shimmer fondant. And then I have a piping bag filled with turquoise buttercream. I figured this could just save me some time in case it takes a while to go through all of these three creations. So I pre-colored the ready-to-use buttercream with the Satin Ice turquoise food color gel, put it in a piping bag and used a star piping tip. And then I also have a pair of scissors here. So this is going to help me open up the packages of fondant. So we can get started. I think we will do the seahorse first, which is this little cutie right here. And to do that, we are going to combine our classic fondant and our shimmer fondant to create a shimmering pink, and it's going to tone down the color a little bit. So also, please let me know if you guys are new to working with fondant, if you have any questions about fondant at all, or any of the Satin Ice products, or about the project while we're working. Don't hesitate to put it in the chat. Felicia will let me know, and hopefully I can help answer any questions. So today we are using the turquoise, the pink, and the pearl shimmer fondant. The colors are the classic fondant, and then this shimmer is one of, it's been around for a few years, but I still like to call it a new product just because it's very innovative, and this product already has the luster within the fondant, so you don't have to mix any shimmer in and make a mess. So what we're going to do today is we're going to combine the classic fondant with the shimmer fondant to create a shimmering pink color. And on satinice.com and our social medias, we have color mix guides for our classic fondant to create different shades. And then we also have a shimmer color mix guide that so you can create shimmer in any shade. So first I'm going to just open up my fondant. And when you first open up the fondant, it's not going to be super, super soft. It's going to be kind of like the texture of Play-Doh. That's how I like to describe it. And as we start to knead it and work with it, it's going to get soft. And because that's going to activate the gums in the product and it will become more flexible. But I will say, once you open fondant, you want to make sure that you close it and you put it in an airtight container. So today I'm working with the 4 ounces. You can also purchase this fondant in a bucket. So it would be great if you could just put it back in the bucket, close the lid on tight, But since this doesn't come in a bucket, I like to have plastic bags by me. So I'll put the extra fondant in a plastic bag. I would want to wrap this really, really well so that there's no air getting into it, and then place it into an airtight container like a Tupperware. The fondant will last a very long time as long as you keep it in an airtight container away from air. And I say that because as fondant sits out, it starts its drying process. So as you're working with the fondant, it's already going to start to dry. And the goal is at the end, when you're making a fondant topper, you do want it to dry, but you don't want it to dry while you're working. So it's important to keep the fondant covered when you're not working with it. So right now, all I'm doing is I'm just kneading the pink fondant. And so what I'm doing is I'm just pressing my hand into the fondant, and then I'm overlapping it, folding it, and pressing down again. And I'm just repeating this process until it gets to be nice and soft and flexible so I can easily make shapes with it. If the fondant piece isn't too big, you can also just do it in your hands and you don't have to use your surface. So first, before I mix the two colors, I just want to make sure that the colors are both pliable enough so that they can combine easily. And now that this is being kneaded well, I'm going to open up the pearl fondant. And then while I open up the pearl fondant, I'm just going to put this pink fondant in the bag so it's not exposed to air. And you'll notice as you're working that the shimmer fondant does have a bit of a different texture. And that's just because it's a different formula, because it has the pearlescent pigments in it.
Hey, Sarah,
There's a question.
Yep.
I know I'm getting stuck off the phone, but there's a question asking if the fondant is sweet, can you suggest other product that can be that has less sugar for a diabetic?
Well, it's kind of hard because a lot of frostings are predominantly made of sugar. I would suggest if you need to, you can always look up. I'm sure on the internet, there's got to be tons of recipes that are for that it could be lower in sugar for even just regular frosting. So I personally don't know any, and I'm sorry, I can't give you any advice on that, but I'm sure if you Google it, something will come up for you. And you can definitely get very creative with frosting too. You don't have to do everything with fondant. So right now I'm kneading the Pearl Shimmer fondant. And if you're working with this right now, you'll definitely notice a difference. It's definitely more elastic. It seems like it's more malleable, stretchier, and that's just due to the different formula that it is. But I don't know if you could see this on the camera. The shimmer is so beautiful. And I love that you don't have to add your own luster dust to this to make that shimmer. So what I'm going to do is I pretty much have about equal parts of the pink and the pearl shimmer fondant, and I'm just going to combine the two together, like I said, to create a very shimmering pink color, and it's also going to tone down this pink color a little bit. So I'm just going to knead these two colors together until it's completely combined. And at this point, if you have warm hands like I do, you might feel like your fondant is starting to stick to you, and that's when your cornstarch becomes very handy. When you use cornstarch, make sure you use it very sparingly, because like if too much came out, you could just kind of dust it on your surface or put some on your hands, because the more cornstarch that you knead into the product, it will dry it out. It's really just to help from it sticking to your surface or your hands. It's not meant to put a ton on. So I like to just coat my hands with it or coat my surface a little bit. And this really helps me a lot because my hands do run hot. So my two colors are almost completely combined. And the shimmer is so pretty. Okay, so now that I have this combined, I think that we should combine all of our colors now, so we're ready to create all the designs. So right now we have our pink ready, and then we're going to do the same thing that we just did with the pink, but with the turquoise. So we're going to take about the same amount of turquoise and the same amount of pearl fondant and combine those together. That we have a shimmering turquoise, because that's going to be used for the jellyfish. So I'm just taking a portion of the turquoise. Any leftover that I have, I'm going to place in the bag. And first, I'm just going to knead this to get it soft. And all of the satinized fondants are vanilla flavored. If you ever see the brown fondant, it's dark chocolate flavored and it's so delicious. I love all of them, but whenever you open up the dark chocolate fondant, it just fills the room with chocolatey flavor and it's so good. I know some people like to actually just eat the fondant as it is because it's so delicious. Okay, so my turquoise is kneaded, and now I'm going to take the remaining of my pearl fondant. Give that a knead. And then we will combine it together. So the shimmer fondant also comes in silver and gold. So the color mix guides that we have, it includes those other shades as well, but you can also mix the shimmer colors together to create like rose gold, copper, and all those different metal tones. Okay, so now that both of my fondant colors are kneaded and soft, I'm going to combine them together. This is going to give us a nice shimmering turquoise color. Okay, and I'm going to use a little bit of my cornstarch. Again, the cornstarch aids in helping the fondant not stick to your hands, your surface, but too much isn't good because it can dry the product out.
Sarah, there's a question asking if they're not making a cupcake right now, would they be in trouble?
No, if you're not making a cupcake right now, that's totally fine. You can actually pre-make your toppers. Like I can take that off the cupcake. You can just pre-make your toppers, allow them to dry, and then you can have these for whenever you want to place them on a cupcake and use them for any decorating. If you don't want to put them on cupcakes, you could put them on brownies. You could put them on whatever your dessert is. You could decorate an under the sea cake. But I actually, whenever I have to do an order with fondant toppers, I actually pre-make the fondant toppers even like a week in advance, weeks in advance, and just so that they're ready to go and they harden and they're easy to maneuver and place on top of the cupcakes. So if you don't have cupcakes right now, that's totally fine. The class is mainly going to be about making the toppers. Okay, so now that I have a shimmering turquoise and a shimmering pink, I'm going to take a portion of the turquoise and the pink, and it's going to create a really pretty purple. And the purple is going to be used for the whale. So right now we're just getting all of our colors ready so we could just get to the decorating part after. So I'm just going to evenly split these colors in half. And so equal parts pink, equal parts turquoise. I'm just eyeballing this. I'm not actually measuring. If you were to be making a real color from a color mix guide, you would be measuring these pieces. But today we're just eyeballing because we're just making fun colors. So I have my turquoise that's shimmery, my pink that's shimmery, and I'm combining equal parts so that we get a pretty purple color. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to put my other fondant colors in this bag so that they are not exposed to air. So these two colors together make a beautiful shade of purple. And then another thing too, if you don't have all these colors, you can always make each of these toppers or decorations in the same color. I just thought it was pretty to do the three colors because the purple, the turquoise, and the pink go really nice together. Okay, so now we have this really pretty purple color. And now we're ready to get started. So to get started on the seahorse, we are going to use our pink. And this one, I must have made the pink a lot lighter when I did it. So this one's going to be more of a vibrant seahorse. Okay. So in today's class, we are actually going to be using our hands as our tools. We are not going to be using any cutters or fondant tools to make these toppers, which is great. So we're going to make the head and the body first. So first, I like to do the body just so I know how what proportion the head has to be. And for the size of your decorations that you're making right now, just keep in mind what your decoration is going to go on. So I'm going to be putting mine on cupcakes, so they're going to be on the smaller side. But if you're putting it on a cake, they could also be bigger. So you just want to be aware of what you're putting your decoration on, so that can help you with what size your topper is going to be. So since mine's going on a cupcake, mine's going to be on the smaller side. I'm going to start out with a ball of the shimmering pink fondant. And I'm going to start tapering one edge with my pointer finger. So I'm going to go on one edge and I'm going to lightly roll back and forth on one side. And this is going to start to create a cone shape. So you can see that one side is starting to taper and get thinner. And that's the goal because we're going to create this shape on the body. So you're just going to continue to get the end to be kind of skinny. So it's like a long cone because you want the end to be skinny so you can make a curl of the tail. So I started with the circle and I went back and forth with my pointer finger until I had a tapered end like this. And now to get it flat, so it's not a cone and it's flat like this, I'm going to just gently press down with my pointer finger. And that's going to start to flatten the body. And then what you'll do is this tail part, you're just going to spiral up like this. So the body of your seahorse should look like this. And then, oh, I also wanted to mention, I have the CMC powder here. This is in case you want your fondant toppers to set quicker. And I also have this out because sometimes the shimmer fondant takes longer to dry because it has that different consistency and texture. So if you needed to, if you wanted your toppers to dry faster so that you can pick them up and easily put them onto your dessert, you would just take a small amount of CMC powder and knead it into the fondant. And I can do that with the rest of this to show you after we finish the detail on the body of the seahorse. So I have a small knife here and I'm going to use the knife to make these tiny little scored textures here. So to do that, pick this up so you can see it. I'm just going to do some horizontal little lines on the belly. Just like that. Okay, so since the body is done, I'm going to show you how I would add CMC powder to the fondant. If you're familiar with fondant and gum paste, so if you're using gum paste for something, it's more about something that would dry extremely hard. You wouldn't want to eat it. It's for lifelike sugar flowers like we have on the packaging here, and leaves, because it will allow the fondant to roll out super thin. So CMC powder mixed with fondant creates something like gum paste. So that's why this is a new Satin Ice product, because when you add it to our fondant, which comes in so many different colors, it will create a gum paste like medium. So I'm just taking a small amount. We have directions on the Palin packaging for exact measurements for the fondant to CMC ratio, but I have a small amount of fondant, so I'm just using a small amount. I put it in the fondant like that, and now I'm just going to start kneading this in. And this CMC powder is just going to help give the fondant more stability, and allow it to kind of set faster. And some people might not want that if they're new to working with fondant. They kind of want as much working time as they can have with fondant if they're moving slower. But if someone has to move fast and they have to make a figurine and it has to dry very quickly, they'll want to add CMC powder because that will help with the setting process. So if you don't have that, it's no big deal. It just definitely helps with setting the fondant quicker, especially if you're in a humid environment or something like that. Okay, so now that we have that mixed in, I'm going to move to the head portion of the seahorse. And for that, all that is going to be a ball of fondant. So this might take a couple tries just to get the exact size of the head so that it's proportionate to the body. And while I'm working with this, I'm going to put the rest of my pink fondant in the bag so that it doesn't get exposed to air. Okay, so let's see. I might use less than this. So first I'm just going to roll a ball of fondant. And then to make it into a circle, we're just going to gently press down with our pointer finger to flatten it out into a circle. So first, I just want to see if this head will be proportionate. And it looks like it's perfect. So it might take a couple tries if you're wondering how much fondant do I need to put on the head of this seahorse. You can just take some away. You can add some, whatever you need to do. But first you'll start out with that ball of fondant and then you'll lightly press down to create a circle shape. And then to attach these two pieces, this is where the edible glue will come in. And I love the Satin Ice edible glue. Before the glue came out, I would always use water, which you can always use if you don't have edible glue, because water will make, when the fondant is a little wet, it will make it adhere like sticky. And the edible glue though works amazing, and you don't have to worry about any pieces falling off of each other because it's a really good adhesive. So I'm just going to squeeze a little bit on my mat here, just in the upper corner away from where I'm working. And I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm just going to take a little bit, because a little goes a long way. And I'm going to brush some right at the top edge of the body of the seahorse. And this is where I'm going to attach the head. And like I said, a little goes a long way. You don't want to put a huge glob of the glue because then it will just slide around. So I'm just attaching the two pieces like this. So far we have our head and the body of the seahorse. And then the only other area that we need the pink for is the mouth, which is really just a little circle of fondant. So I'll take a little bit of that out. This is going to be the tiniest little piece. And it's all going to depend on the size of the head of your seahorse. So I'm going to take this small little ball of fondant and I kind of just made it into a little bit of a cone shape. And to do that, I'll try to show you this because it's so small. But first I roll it into a ball. I take my pointer finger and my thumb and I kind of pinch one side of the circle a little bit to kind of make it a triangle in a way. Flatten it out just a little bit. So it kind of looks like a triangle. And I'm going to attach that to the front of the seahorse's head. Because my hands are warm, the fondant is a little bit sticky, so I didn't even have to use edible glue to put that together. And then the next part is going to be this outside detail along the edge of the seahorse. I can't see what someone just said, but they said they couldn't see something.
And they're saying I can only see red, nothing but that, but I'm not for sure.
Okay.
If Jenna, if you can explain a little bit more, then we can help you.
So now I'm taking out my turquoise fondant because we're going to make this detail along the outside of the seahorse. So for that, we are going to start with a ball of fondant. And basically, I'm actually going to start with this whole piece of turquoise fondant. And basically, we're going to roll this into a log, a long, skinny log that's going to wrap around the outer edge. And then we can cut off any excess that we have. And before I do that, I'm actually going to brush the outside, the left outer edge of the seahorse with some edible glue, because this is where we're going to be applying the turquoise fondant. So it's going to start at the top of the seahorse's head, go just to the base of where the tail starts. Okay. So to do this, we're just going to roll back and forth until we get a skinny log. And if you have extra fondant, it's okay, because you can always cut the excess off. So first, I just want to see if I have enough here. Looks like I have enough, but I think I went too thin. I don't want it that thin. The beauty about fondant is if you're working and you make a shape or you roll it out and you're like, that doesn't look really good to me, or it's not the right proportion or right size, you can always just roll it up and start over again, as long as the fondant isn't dry yet. Once the fondant starts to dry, you definitely don't want to maneuver it or try to work with it, because then it will start to crack. Okay, so I have a long strand of the turquoise fondant, and I'm just going to start attaching this to the outer edge. And then when I get to the point where I have to stop, I'm just going to cut off. So right now it should look like this.
Sarah, did
And
you use the glue or water on the side?
I used glue on the side, but if you don't have edible glue, you can use water. That's what, before Satin Ice came out with edible glue, I always used water. So if you don't have the glue, that's totally fine. But if you do have the glue and you have water, just use a small amount because a small amount goes a long way. And if it's too wet on the fondant, the colors will bleed and it will just get a little sticky and messy. So just use the tiniest amount that you can use. So the next part is I want to make the detail along this. And to do that, we're going to use our little sharp knife and then we're going to pinch along the edge with our finger. So to do that, I'm just going to make little indents with my knife along the edge. Like that. And then as a little extra, I like to go around with my pointer finger and my thumb and just pinch these little areas so that they kind of point up. So it should look like that. And we're almost done with the seahorse. So the next part is actually the detail on with the food color markers. And I think I'm going to wait till the end of the class to do that because you should really use the edible markers on fondant that's started to set so that it's not wet and so that the edible marker doesn't dig into the fondant. So I'm actually going to put this seahorse to the side and then we will finish the details with the markers toward the end of the class.
Sarah, there's another question asking, once it's all dried up, will the crack appear on the structure?
No, so once fondant, that's a good question. So when you're working with fondant and you have your finished piece, right after you're done with it, you want to transfer it to an area where it can dry and stay still and not be maneuvered for at least 12 to 24 hours so that it's officially dry. Because if you start to pick this up when it's trying to dry and it's partly dried and partly not dry, it will start to crack. But while it's drying on its own, it will not crack. It's only if you're maneuvering it or trying to bend it when it's in the middle of that process. So I like to say, like I said earlier, that when your fondant's out and you're working with it, it's already starting its drying process. So if you have a shape cut out and you have it to the side, unless you cover it with saran wrap or something like that, it's already starting to dry because it's exposed to air. So just be cautious of that when you make your topper. Right after you're done with it, just gently pick it up, even if you have to like use your knife to help get it off of your surface. And then you can transfer it to an area that you can allow it to dry. And I like to allow my pieces to dry on parchment paper on top of like a cutting board or something like that. So I'll have that pre-made on the side and then I can just place my toppers onto that parchment paper and allow it to dry. And I just allow it to dry in open air, uncovered. Okay, so the next topper we will make is the whale. So we're going to take our purple color out that we made. And you just need enough for the body right now. So first, all of these topper designs start with a ball of fondant. So first you're going to roll it in a ball. And then I just need to put some cornstarch on my hands because my hands are getting hot. So once you have your ball, we are going to make a cone shape again, just like we did before for the seahorse. So I'm going to use my pointer finger on one end of the ball, rolling back and forth gently until it forms a cone shape. We don't want the end of the cone to be as skinny as the seahorse was because the whale doesn't have that type of tail. But just enough, I'll show you. I think that's good. I have a piece of, always make sure that your surface is clean of other colors of fondant, because then you'll roll other colors of fondant onto your piece that you're working on. And I just made that mistake. Okay, so this is the shape that I have right now. And I did that from starting with a ball of fondant, using my pointer finger to roll back and forth to taper one edge. So it's creating this cone shape. And if you look at it, it kind of is the shape of a whale. So now to get it flat like this one, all we're going to do is we're going to take our pointer finger like we did before and just start lightly pressing down. And you'll press down along the whole way, even with the tail. And as you're working, if you feel like your tail needs to be a little longer, you can just like tug a little bit and it will make it longer. And you want to give it the tail a little bit of a point. Okay. So now at this point, it kind of looks like a teardrop shape with a little flip of a tail. And now to make the tail look like this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife. I'm going to cut down the middle of the tail like this. And I'm going to flap over. I'll bring this up so you guys can see better, but I'm going to just like turn this over like this. So it looks like that. And then to create that texture on the tail, I'm just going to take a toothpick, or you can use a sharp knife if you need, but just like gently score in these lines. And I'll bring this up closer to the camera so you can see what I'm doing. But I just use the toothpick to score some lines into the tail to make it a little bit more realistic. And I forgot to add CMC powder to this one again. So like I said, the CMC powder is totally optional. If you're new to working with fondant and you're making toppers, it's probably better if you don't. This way the piece isn't drying really quickly on you. So, but it's a nice to have if you want your pieces to dry quicker. So the next part of the whale is the belly, and we're going to use the pink color for that. So for that part, I'm just going to take a little bit of the pink fondant and I'm going to, again, start with a ball of fondant. And I'm going to roll it so that it's kind of like an egg shape. Because our end result is we're going to flatten this out into a like an oval shape so that we can fold it down on the belly right here. So I would just roll it into like a log egg shape just until it like seems to be a good size length for the belly. And then at this point, I'm just going to start flattening it out. And we want it to kind of be an oval shape. And we don't want it too thick. So I'm just like lightly patting down with my pointer finger to create this oval. And then the idea is we're going to put it right here on the whale's belly and then fold it under. So the thinner it is, the better as well, just so that it doesn't look too chunky. So you can always pick it up, place it over and say, okay, look, it fits good, perfect. If it's too big, you can start over, take some fondant away and redo it so that it's the right size. So to attach this, I'm going to use some of our edible glue. If you don't have the edible glue, you can use some water. So I'm just brushing some of the glue where I'm going to be placing this fondant so it's on the belly of the whale. And I'm just going to press down and kind of lightly fold the extra pink underneath. And then any extra that's too much you have, you could just cut off. I'm just using my toothpick to try to help push underneath. And then I will take my knife and just cut any of the extra fondant off. So it should look like this. And then at this point, we can make those lines along the belly to give that texture. So to do that, you just take your knife and just make these lines along the belly. Not too hard so that you cut through the fondant, just enough so that you're scoring the lines in. Okay, so next we're going to need our purple fondant again because we're going to make the fin. And then you can, at this point, you can also take out a small amount of the turquoise because we're going to make the little water spouting out at the top. So for the fin, again, we're going to start out with a ball of fondant. And then we're going to do that same shape where we kind of taper one end. So use your pointer finger, taper one end to create a cone shape. And then we're going to flatten that out and it's going to just look like a teardrop shape. So it should look like this. And then we will use some of the edible glue to attach that. And then for the little spouts of water at the top, we'll take our turquoise and we're going to just need 3 small balls of the turquoise fondant. And I'll bring this up closer so that you guys can see because they're really small. So these are the 3 small balls of the turquoise fondant. And for this, we're going to do that same technique where we taper one end. I know they're small, so it might seem hard, but on one end of the little circle, or the little ball, I'm just going to taper one end so that it creates a cone shape. And I'm going to do that for each one. Oops. And then when you have 3 of those, you're going to align them so that the skinny ends are touching. And you're just going to pinch them together so that it looks like a splash of water. And then you can just attach that to the top of your whale. And then again, the whale also has details with the food color markers, but we'll get to that toward the end because I just want to let this start to set up a little bit. So the next one and final topper is the jellyfish. They're all so cute. I can't pick which one is my favorite.
Sarah, they say you have magical fingers.
Oh, thank you. Guys, it takes practice if you can't get it the first time. But it's a lot of fun to practice with. So, and if you don't get it the first time, just roll up the fondant again and start again. Don't get too frustrated. So next, I'm going to use the turquoise fondant and we're going to create the jellyfish. And just for the, I guess for the jellyfish, it's the head and the body. We're just going to be doing the turquoise. And then for the tentacles, I used a little bit of each color. So I used a little bit of the purple, the pink, and the blue, and I just alternated them. And so now, again, we're starting with a ball of fondant. And then from here, I'm just going to start pressing down again to form a circle. If your hand is sticking to the fondant, just put a little bit of cornstarch on your finger. Smooth it out. Okay, so once I have my circle, I'm going to kind of push up a little bit because I don't want it to be a complete circle shape. I want it to be like, I don't know, maybe like a, kind of looks like a half circle. So I'm just pushing on the bottom edge with my thumb like this, and then I'm just rounding the edges. So it should look like that. And then next we can get started on the little tentacles. And so I'm going to take out a little bit of the turquoise, a little bit of the purple, and a little bit of the pink. And these are just like little squiggles of fondant or little like skinny logs, and I just give them some movement. So I just took out a little bit of each color. And I'm going to form first small balls of the fondant. So I'm probably going to use like 2 of each color. So I'm just taking a little bit of the turquoise, a little bit of the purple, and a little bit of the pink. Rolling them up into little balls. And then from here, we're just going to create skinny logs. So same technique, take your pointer finger, run back and forth. I like to just like hover over lightly, starting on the left, moving to the middle, moving along to the right. This way it's nice and even, so that you don't have like one skinny area of your log and one fat area. So that's about a good size. So I'm just going to continue that with all the rest. So I'm just rolling back and forth to create a skinny log shape. This is my last one. And then after this, we're just going to kind of spiral them a little bit, give them some movement, and then we'll attach them. So for this part, And you want to do this while the fondant is still wet and pliable, not wet, but still pliable and hasn't started to dry. Because if you start to do this when the fondant starts to dry, it will crack. So I'm just going to start kind of like twisting the fondant a little bit just to give them some movement. It doesn't have to be perfect, just like that. And I'll start lining them up where I'm going to put them. And I'm going to alternate my colors. So I started with the pink. Next is the purple. So that kind of looks like a corkscrew. And you don't have to totally spiralize these. I'm just giving them some movement. So you could just like kind of twist them a little bit. So I started with pink, purple, and turquoise, and then I'll go with pink again. Purple. And the last turquoise. Okay. So at this point, we're ready to attach them to the bottom of the jellyfish. So I'm going to take some of the edible glue, and I'm just going to brush some at the base. And then we're just going to attach the tentacles. So we're just going to lightly press that it attaches. I might need to make more if these don't go all the way across. I'm going to make one more pink one. So again, roll it into a ball, roll back and forth to create a skinny log shape. And then kind of just start to twist and turn it to create like a squiggly shape. And then attach them all to the base of your jellyfish. So at this point, it looks like this. Okay, so now all of the toppers are pretty much complete. We're just going to add the details with the food color markers and the luster brush. So I'm going to go back to my seahorse. I'm going to carefully try to pick this up and bring it over to me. And for the details, we're going to use our food color markers. This is one of my all-time favorite products because you can really just use white fondant or white royal icing once it's hardened and elevate your designs like crazy, just like you're drawing on paper. So I'm going to need the purple, the pink, and the black. So first we're going to start with the little polka dots along the outer edge. And since your fondant pieces are still pretty soft, just be careful. Don't put too much pressure. But the marker, you really don't have to put too much pressure anyway, because these markers are pretty pigmented and you really only need a light amount of pressure. If you press too hard, you can damage the tip of the marker, and the tip of the marker will go into the fondant. So let me lift this up so you guys can see closer. So I'm just making little polka dots along the left edge of the seahorse, all the way down to the tail. So the next part is I'm going to make the eye. And if you want for the eye, you can just do a dot. All of these, I kind of looked like, I made them look like they were sleeping. So I just did like a little arc and then I did little eyelashes. So for that, these are fine tip markers. So for the eye, since it's very fine and a skinny line, you're going to want to use the very tip of the marker. So I'm just going to make an arc shape and then do little lines for the eyelashes, like this. So the seahorse is done. Next, we'll move to the whale. And the whale has some pink details. So I just will take the pink food color marker and just add some spots to the top. Some on the fin. Again, you want to use light pressure for this because you don't want the food color marker to dig into the fondant. And then here, I'm just going to give some detail on the water to show that it's splashing.
Hey, Sarah, there's a question asking about what if they color once it has dried up?
Oh, that's easier. It's best to color once they're dried up. Like for this class, since I can't wait for them to dry, I'm doing them now, but it's best to wait for them to dry. This way you can, you're not going to dig the marker into the fondant and it won't ruin the marker. So definitely do it once it's dry. I'm just showing how to do it while it's still wet. Oh, I have to do the face on the whale. So for the face of the whale, same thing. I'm just going to do a little smile. And then the eye again, it's just like a little arc. Some lashes. Next, for the jellyfish, I'm going to use the purple and I'm just going to put some spots on the top of the head. Just a little bit in the center and cascading down the sides. And then for the face, same thing. We'll do 2 arcs for the eyes. And a smile. Okay, so all the faces are done. And at this point, I mean, they're adorable as they are. I'm going to take the Satin Ice luster brush. And the luster brush is kind of, it's a form of edible paint in a way, but it's not opaque like a paint would be. It's more for like a lustery, shiny finish to put on top of your designs. And it works best on textures and on colors. So I have the silver luster brush. I'm going to give it a really, really, really good shake. The pearlescent pigments will separate from the liquid in the cartridge, so it's really important to give it a good shake. And then I like to start twisting this over on my mat or in like a painter's palette or something so that I'm not twisting it over my creation for it to splatter, because sometimes the liquid could splatter out. So I'm just going to go to the side over here and I'm going to start twisting the edge slowly, not too fast, all the way until the liquid luster starts to fill the brush. And like I said, it very well could splatter. So I'm just doing it slowly. When you first get the luster brush and open it, it does take quite a few twists to move down. There we go. All right. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some of this detail on like the fin to give it some extra luster, maybe like the belly of the whale. So it's
Hey,
just
Sarah,
giving, yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So if someone decided they wanted to sell cupcakes, They were
Yes.
wondering what would be a good price range.
So honestly, sometimes I feel like it depends where you live too. If you're making toppers like these to put on top of your cupcakes, I would say you're starting at $4 a cupcake because this takes a ton of time. You have to buy the materials, you have to make your cupcakes, frost your cupcakes, add this decoration on top. Definitely at least $4 a cupcake. Some people even just sell the toppers. So if you don't want to bake the cupcakes and you just want to make edible toppers for people, you can always just sell the toppers like that too. And then you could probably charge even more. You could just charge per topper without having the cupcake included. There's all types of groups on Facebook as well that help people kind of see what other people charge and what you should charge or get advice from. It's a daunting thing because I deal with that too. I don't never know what to charge. So I'm just taking the luster brush and I'm just brushing some extra detail to make it extra shimmery. And then I'll do the same thing along the edge for the seahorse. And then these toppers are done. And like I said, you can put these on cupcakes, you can put them on a cake, you can put them along the side of the cake. So the luster brush is great to add extra shimmer. It's kind of a paint consistency, but it doesn't go on like a paint because it's not super opaque. But it works best on colors and textured pieces or as like little details. So I'll pick up the jellyfish and you can see how much shimmer it added. But if you're using like a texturized mold with fondant and you brush it over, it looks so beautiful. And it also comes in gold as well. So this is what it looks like once all the details are complete. And then we'll frost some cupcakes and we'll put them on. So like I said earlier, I did it to cut time in the class, but I already colored my buttercream in a turquoise and I used the Satin Ice ready to use buttercream, which is absolutely amazing. It's a vanilla flavor and it's bright white color. So it takes food color gels really well. The Satin Ice food color gels work great. Like I said, it's vanilla flavored, but it's a subtle enough vanilla so that you can customize the flavors. We have tons of recipes online for this as well. And the next class, if you guys are still here, it's a premium class, but we will be doing a key lime cake with the buttercream frosting. We're going to be making a key lime flavor and it's so, so, so good. So definitely sign up for that if you're interested. But I already pre-colored it and I have it in my piping bag with a star tip. And I'm just going to swirl some onto my cupcakes. And I'm doing more of like a flat swirl. So I'm just starting in the center, squeezing, going around, stop squeezing, and then I'm just slowly lifting off.
Hey, Sarah, there's a quick question asking what's the shelf life on the toppers?
On the toppers, it's sugar and fondant has a shelf life of, our fondant I think has a shelf life of at least 12 months. It could be even more than that. So basically, honestly, a lot of the times people don't end up eating the fondant, but they should because it's delicious. But you can pre-make this like a month in advance if you want it, the toppers, as long as you make them in advance, let them dry overnight for like 12 to 24 hours just to make sure they're really dry. And then you can carefully place them in like a Tupperware. Don't layer them, just lay them flat and put the Tupperware top over. And then you can store them that way and they'll be good to use for whenever you make your cupcakes. Typically I would not put these toppers on top of the cupcakes yet. I would want them to set so that they don't like take form of the cupcake or droop or anything like that. But for today's class, I'll put them on. So here's the whale, seahorse, I think someone just asked if you need to freeze them. You do not need to freeze them. They're good just at room temperature. And the jellyfish. Does anyone have any more questions?
I don't see any that are coming in at the moment.
Okay.
I think you've answered everything that has come across so far.
Okay, great. So I just want to thank everyone for joining today's class. It was a lot of fun. And if you guys have any other questions regarding the Satinize products or the project, you can always message us on Instagram or Facebook or email us or call us, whatever you need. We're always here to help. And also keep in mind, my next class in July is the key lime cake. So we'll go over how to stack and layer a cake, make the key lime buttercream frosting from the ready to use buttercream frosting that we have. And we'll decorate the full cake. So you'll get a lot of tips and tricks from that as well. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for joining, and I hope you had a great class, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.